Taurus, beautiful soul, around May 29th and 30th, 2026, something quietly powerful begins to unfold within you. A truth rises to the surface, and it may move you deeply, not because it hurts, but because part of your spirit finally feels understood. These are not tears of loss. They are the kind that come when a long season inside you finally begins to soften. This is more than a horoscope. It is a sacred moment of alignment, a message arriving at exactly the right time for your heart to receive it. If this video found you, trust that it happened for a reason. You were guided here. Somewhere inside, your soul has been waiting for clarity, and the energy surrounding these days carries that opening toward you. Around May 29th and 30th, a quiet gateway begins to form, one that gently brings hidden emotions and unspoken truths into the light. What you have sensed deep within yourself may finally become impossible to ignore. The confirmation may come through a conversation, a memory returning unexpectedly, or a calm realization that settles into your chest without warning. However it reaches you, it carries the power to loosen the emotional weight you have carried for far too long. Taurus, you have spent so much energy trying to hold life together because stability felt safer than uncertainty. You stayed steady for everyone else, while parts of your own spirit slowly grew tired in silence. You smiled through emotional exhaustion. You remained loyal long after your heart began asking for rest. But something is changing now, because your truth is no longer willing to stay buried beneath endurance and routine. You may wake around 3 a.m. feeling unusually aware, as though your body already understands something your mind is still learning to accept. You may notice repeating numbers, familiar names, dreams that linger, or subtle reminders from the past appearing in unexpected ways. None of these moments are meaningless. They are gentle signals, quiet nudges from a force that has been guiding you even during the seasons when you felt alone. If you have ever whispered a prayer, asking for clarity or a sign, let this message meet you as that answer. Let this video become the moment something inside you finally settles into knowing. Take a slow breath with me now, and if your heart already feels this shift, if something inside you is reacting softly but unmistakably, honor that connection. Leave the number 222 in the comments below as your signal to the universe that you are ready to receive. Let it reflect your willingness to open your heart to peace, truth, and the new season unfolding around you. And before we continue, I want to genuinely thank you for being here. Every comment, every like, every share, and every subscription helps strengthen this space we are creating together. One rooted in healing, reflection, and emotional renewal. Listen closely, Taurus, because what is unfolding around you during this time is deeply personal. This energy is not loud or chaotic. It moves quietly, almost like the first warm shift after a long emotional winter. You will want to stay with this message until the very end, because what is approaching is not simply information, it is transformation. Something beneath the surface begins to move when the sky changes, and during this period, the energy around you starts softening in ways you may not immediately recognize. As the moon moves from Scorpio into Sagittarius, an emotional loosening begins to take place. You may notice it gently, through the way your body relaxes when you stop bracing for disappointment and finally allow yourself to feel what has been sitting quietly inside you all along. For someone like you, someone who has carried emotional responsibility with quiet strength, this shift can feel like the first full breath after holding tension for too long. Venus, your ruling planet, now forms a beautiful connection with Neptune, creating an atmosphere that encourages compassion, healing, and grounded clarity. In astrology, this kind of alignment opens space for truth to emerge gently rather than forcefully. What once felt confusing or emotionally distant may now begin making sense in a way that brings peace instead of fear. This energy is not asking you to become someone different. It is asking you to stop abandoning yourself in the process of holding everything together for everyone else. Compassion is no longer meant to flow only outward. It is finally meant to return to you as well. What becomes visible now is not here to overwhelm your heart, but to remind you that healing often begins the moment you finally allow yourself to feel fully seen, even by yourself. You have often been the steady one, Taurus, the person others relied on, while you quietly carried more than anyone realized. But constantly holding everything together becomes exhausting when it asks you to ignore your own emotional needs. This energy is not asking you to stop being dependable. It is asking you to finally include yourself in the peace and safety you have spent so long creating for everyone else. Sometimes true balance is not about keeping life stable for others. It is about recognizing when it is finally time to let go. As emotions rise during this season, they are not weakness. They are messages from the parts of you that stayed silent for too long, the parts that learned endurance before softness. There are feelings inside you that never fully had space to breathe, emotions that kept getting buried beneath loyalty, responsibility, and survival. But something within you is beginning to loosen now. This is not about falling apart. It is about releasing what your spirit was never meant to carry forever. You are entering a season where healing matters more than simply enduring. The version of you that survived at all costs is slowly giving way to the version that understands peace should not require self-abandonment. And perhaps this shift is happening now because part of you finally feels safe enough to face what once felt overwhelming. If emotions surface unexpectedly, let them move through you without judgment. If tears come, let them come naturally. They are creating space for something calmer and more honest to take root inside you. You do not need to explain every feeling before it deserves to be acknowledged. Emotion is not separate from strength. In many ways, it is where strength begins. In quiet moments, you may notice memories resurfacing, subtle realizations forming, or a deeper inner knowing becoming harder to ignore. It may arrive gently, but that does not make it any less real. Some call this grace. Others call it intuition, divine guidance, or the quiet presence of something greater moving through life. Whatever name you give it, there is a healing force working within you through stillness rather than fear. Between exhaustion and renewal, between who you were and who you are becoming, you may finally realize you are not alone in this process. Allow yourself to rest there for a moment. Let your body soften instead of bracing against every emotion that rises. Let old patterns loosen so new truths can begin settling into place. And when the urge to suppress your feelings returns, meet it with curiosity instead of resistance. Ask yourself gently, what if this is the moment I stop carrying everything alone and finally make space for myself too? Let that question stay with you in the days ahead. Let it remind you that emotional peace and clarity are not rewards you must earn. They become available the moment you allow yourself to receive them. Sometimes truth does not arrive like a storm. Sometimes it enters quietly, like a feeling you have carried for years but are only now ready to trust. That is the energy surrounding this message for you, Taurus. It is bringing forward what your soul already sensed beneath silence, attachment, and quiet endurance. Through the cards, that truth begins speaking more clearly, not to hurt you, but to free you. The High Priestess appears first as confirmation. She reflects your inner wisdom, the calm voice within you that kept whispering the truth even while you doubted yourself. She does not force answers or demand attention. Her presence reminds you that your inner knowing already carries the clarity you have been searching for. You do not need outside permission to trust what your spirit has recognized all along. What you felt was never imaginary. It was real, even when you tried to rationalize it away. And now something may arrive to confirm it further. perhaps through a message, a realization, or a moment that suddenly makes everything click into place. Then comes the Ten of Swords, a card many misunderstand because they only see endings in it. But for someone who has carried emotional exhaustion for so long, this card speaks more about release than pain. Sometimes healing begins the moment you stop forcing yourself to hold what has already become too heavy. This is not the ending of you. It is the ending of the version of you that believed survival required endless sacrifice. The Ten of Swords gently asks whether surrender could become the doorway to peace, whether letting go could become an act of self-respect instead of loss. And then comes the Star, quiet, patient, and deeply restorative. She appears after emotional heaviness begins lifting, when enough space has opened inside you to receive hope again. Her energy feels like calm after tension, like finally breathing fully again. The Star is not only about hope, it is about alignment. It reminds you that healing does not require you to justify your pain or explain every scar you carry. Love, peace, and restoration become easier to receive when you stop chasing them and begin returning to yourself instead. When you return to your truth, what is meant for you begins finding its way back naturally. Together, these three cards reveal a powerful emotional pattern. First comes inner knowing, then the release of emotional weight, and finally, the rebuilding of purpose and direction. But there is a deeper layer beneath all of this. This message reflects the way the universe responds to the energy you have carried for years, especially through moments no one else fully saw. Whether you call it divine timing, spiritual alignment, or energetic return, something you helped create through patience and quiet endurance is now unfolding around you. Every time you chose peace over chaos, every time you stayed grounded instead of reacting impulsively, none of it was meaningless. Those moments shaped you, and now life is beginning to reflect back the growth that once existed only inside you. This is where spirituality becomes real. Healing moves beyond ideas and begins changing the way you breathe, choose, and move through life. You do not have to force miracles. You simply need to stop resisting what has already been trying to reach you. When you soften enough to receive, the path ahead begins revealing itself naturally. Not through pressure or dramatic signs, but through quiet clarity settling into your spirit. There is something sacred about waking in the middle of the night with nothing around you except your own breathing and a feeling in your chest you cannot fully explain. Around 3 a.m., during what many call the veil hour, you may feel subtle emotional shifts. A memory may rise unexpectedly. A name may return to your thoughts. You may suddenly sense the emotional presence of someone who once mattered deeply in your life. This hour is not meant to frighten you. It is an opening where emotional truth becomes easier to hear. During these moments, healing often rises gently to the surface, especially the parts of your heart buried beneath survival and emotional endurance. For many people, this season brings emotional echoes from the past. Someone may reappear physically, emotionally, or energetically, but their return does not automatically mean they belong in your future. Sometimes these moments arrive so your soul can finally choose peace instead of attachment. You are being offered a choice now, to continue carrying old emotional weight or finally release it with compassion, to cling to what once felt safe or trust yourself enough to let it go. Letting go is not forgetting. It is remembering without allowing the pain to continue shaping your life. You are no longer the same version of yourself who first entered that relationship, season, or emotional pattern. Growth has changed the way your spirit understands love, safety, and self-worth. Because of that growth, you are now allowed to choose differently. You are allowed to create stronger boundaries. You are allowed to speak honestly about your needs. You are allowed to move toward connections that feel grounding rather than draining. Love that truly aligns with who you are becoming will never require you to abandon yourself just to keep it. Real love does not ask you to shrink in order to feel secure. It allows you to expand instead of survive. Right now, life is asking you to loosen your attachment, not to your standards, but to the old stories you once believed about what you deserved. It is okay to recognize that part of you accepted less because familiarity felt safer than change. But the energy surrounding you now asks a different question. What if releasing what no longer supports you is creating space for something healthier to enter? Many people wait for permission to walk away, but often that permission begins quietly within. It begins the moment you realize that peace matters more than proving a point. That silence can carry wisdom. That distance can become an act of healing. You do not need one final apology to move forward. You only need to decide that your emotional safety matters more than remaining available to people who could not fully honor your heart. Most of the time, letting go is not dramatic. Often, it is simply one honest breath where your body finally releases what it has been holding too long. It is the moment you stop reliving the past and begin making room for what your future is trying to become. These shifts are quiet, but deeply sacred. So, if you have been feeling the urge to step back from certain energies or stop pouring yourself into spaces that leave you emotionally drained, consider this your confirmation. You are not walking away from love. You are moving toward a version of it that allows you to feel safe, valued, and fully yourself. If this message speaks to where you are right now, say it softly to yourself or write it in the comments below. I release what holds me back. I step into truth. I no longer need to prove that I am worthy of love because I already am. Let those words settle into your spirit tonight, not as longing, but as a return to yourself. And just as emotional healing reveals where your heart has needed restoration, the same process is beginning to unfold in your outer world as well, especially in your work, finances, and sense of abundance. Around May 29th and 30th, 2026, the shift you've been feeling internally begins showing itself in the world around you too. It becomes visible in the areas where you've worked quietly, stayed patient, or questioned whether your efforts were ever truly noticed. Taurus, energy planted with sincerity never disappears. Every grounded choice, every moment you stayed aligned, even when results felt delayed, has been creating movement behind the scenes. This period may bring recognition that once seemed out of reach. Not loudly, but in a way that feels precise and well-timed. A work opportunity that faded away, a client who disappeared, or an application that once led nowhere may suddenly reopen. Not because you were overlooked, but because your energy is no longer approaching life from fear or exhaustion. The same shift may happen financially. Delayed support, overdue money, or unexpected opportunities connected to abundance may begin moving toward you again. This is not luck. It is energetic alignment, finally meeting the version of you that is ready to receive without desperation. In spiritual work, money reflects energy as much as effort. It moves more freely where trust exists, where self-worth feels stable, and where survival no longer depends on overgiving or constantly proving yourself. If fear or scarcity has shaped your relationship with abundance, this season invites you to reset that pattern. Do not rush toward the first opportunity simply because part of you fears nothing else will come. Let healing and clarity guide your choices instead. Ask yourself honestly, am I saying yes because this aligns with my worth, or because I'm afraid to miss out? Sometimes blessings arrive disguised as decisions that ask you to choose yourself differently. That's why clarity matters now. One way to support that energy is through intentional color. White carries honesty, openness, and grounded truth. Wear it when making financial decisions or setting intentions around new opportunities. Green supports emotional renewal, stability, and sustainable growth. It reconnects you with work and responsibility in a way that feels nourishing instead of draining. Gold carries the energy of worthiness, confidence, abundance, and receiving without guilt. Whether you wear gold, surround yourself with it, or imagine it as warm light around your life, let it remind you that your value does not need to be negotiated. Sometimes the real miracle is not sudden wealth. Sometimes it's waking up and realizing your body no longer feels anxious every time you check your finances. Sometimes the miracle is walking into opportunities without shrinking yourself or over-explaining your worth. It's knowing internally that what you bring into a room already matters before anyone else confirms it. So during this time, slow down enough to notice where life is beginning to soften in your favor. Resist the urge to respond from pressure or urgency. Let your choices come from grounded peace instead. Receiving is not something you earn through exhaustion. It becomes possible when your spirit finally feels safe enough to receive. There is a difference between chasing abundance and welcoming it. This season is teaching you how to welcome. If this message resonates with you, anchor it into your energy. Say it softly or write it in the comments below. I am ready to receive with peace. I welcome abundance that aligns with my worth. Let those words become part of the energy you carry forward, because the smallest inner shifts often create the deepest transformation. The ritual connected to the evening of May 29th and the morning of May 30th is not just symbolic. It is preparation, a quiet transition between the version of you that kept surviving and the version finally ready to receive life more gently. Nothing about this practice needs to feel complicated. The power comes from your intention and presence. Turning off the lights is not only about darkness, it is about creating enough stillness for your inner knowing to rise. Lighting a white candle is a declaration of clarity, honesty, and surrender. White creates space for truth to move forward gently and fully. When you place your hand over your heart and repeat your affirmation 3 times, you are not controlling the universe. You are aligning yourself with the truth your spirit has already been waiting to accept. And the words themselves carry power. I no longer hold what has hurt me. I am ready to step into truth. This affirmation becomes a doorway between the life you've already outgrown and the emotional space your soul is beginning to enter. And when you speak those words sincerely, something inside you may begin to soften. Maybe it feels like a quiet release in your body, a breath finally leaving your chest after being held too long, or a warmth reminding you that it's finally safe to move forward. The morning of May 30th carries sacred energy as well. The way you begin your day matters, because your first moments awake send a message to both your spirit and the life unfolding around you. Choosing not to reach for your phone immediately is not about discipline, it is about presence. It is about giving your own energy attention before the world asks for it. When your feet touch the floor and you quietly say, I walk in light, I receive what my soul is worthy of, you begin anchoring yourself into a new chapter. You are no longer waiting for change someday. You are participating in it now. Energy responds to readiness, and even simple rituals help your body understand what your spirit already knows. You are no longer the version of yourself who had to carry emotional heaviness just to survive. And as you continue speaking your affirmations aloud, I release what hurts. I accept the truth. I choose peace and power. You are aligning yourself with the life already moving quietly toward you. Numbers also carry meaning now. 2 reflects alignment and emotional harmony. 29 speaks of one emotional season closing, while 30 carries renewal and emergence. And 222 remains a reminder that you are supported, even during moments when healing feels invisible. 7 carries its own quiet message too. It often appears when something deeper is unfolding beneath the surface before physical proof arrives. You do not need to force what is meant for you. You only need enough stillness to recognize it when it comes. Allow this practice to become your sacred pause before life begins shifting in new ways. Not because you forced every outcome, but because you finally aligned with what your spirit has been asking to receive. If something inside you is responding to this now, ground it into reality by writing this in the comments below. I am open. I am ready. I trust the truth that leads me home. Let those words become both your beginning and your reminder. If this message moves you emotionally, Taurus, let yourself feel it fully. Tears are not weakness, they are release. They are proof that your spirit finally feels safe enough to let go. You are not losing yourself, you are returning to yourself, and that return is its own rebirth. Freedom was never outside of you, waiting to be earned. It has always existed within you. What changed is that you finally became still enough and honest enough to recognize it. The things falling away now are not punishments. They are signs that you've outgrown the patterns, beliefs, and attachments that no longer match who you are becoming. The love that once felt distant, the financial stability that seemed delayed, the recognition you quietly hoped for, none of it is arriving because you finally proved your worth. It is arriving because you stopped trying to prove anything at all. You are beginning to understand that your value is not conditional. Your presence carries power, even in stillness. So now the question becomes simple. Are you ready to step forward, not to chase or convince, but simply to receive what has been trying to reach you all along? Because it may already be closer than you think. And it does not require perfection from you, only presence. Take a slow breath and ask yourself honestly, what if this is the moment your life begins turning toward everything your heart once hoped for quietly? What if this message is the sign you have been waiting for? Are you willing to stop postponing your joy until you feel fully ready? Or can you trust that your readiness is already unfolding in real time? Because it is. And if your heart recognizes that truth, anchor it by writing this in the comments below. I am ready to step into my new destiny. I receive the peace, abundance, and victory meant for me. And if someone close to you is still waiting for their own breakthrough, share this video with them. They may be standing at the edge of the same transformation you once prayed for. Before you go, thank you sincerely for being here, for your openness, your energy, and your willingness to receive this message. Every like, comment, and subscription helps this space continue reaching people who need healing and clarity during important moments in their lives. And Taurus, remember this. You were never broken. You were preparing for a life that finally reflects who you truly are. The peace, freedom, and emotional safety you've been searching for were never far away. They have always been waiting within you.